Hey guys, hope you're well. For episode 21, I had the pleasure of having a conversation with Nash. And if you listen to like the intro to every song that I intro every episode with, it's actually his voice um, that kicks everything off. So I was just really thankful to have a chat with him, and we had just a beautiful conversation. And as you know, he's the lead singer of a band called Flying Bantu. And one thing he said to me was that I think it would be great if you just leave the conversation, don't cut it and edit it. And then that way I think it retains its true essence. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And lastly, this episode has been sponsored by Munch. A great friend of mine owns the business and or friends own the business. And they're a food delivery company in Zim. It's I was there from seeing them come up with the idea to where it is now. And I think I'm just very thankful that that we have friends that support each other. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy it, and let me know what you think. Bye.
Well, everybody knows the Zimbabwean voice now, that's for sure. And it's a beautiful voice, that one. One of unity, one of togetherness, one of peace, one of love, That's the way forward. Oga, Oga.
We're live, but the essence of the podcast is if Zimbabwe is a story, and we all have a pen and we're writing our own contribution to the Zimbabwean story, right? The essence of the podcast is, what does it look like for people that are doing work that are shifting the Zimbabwean narrative for the better? Any story has a negative parts to it, but there are also some people that are bringing light and are using their work or their existence to shift it for the better. So I just speak to people that are doing that specifically, and I thought it would be good to have you guys on it as well, or you specifically, because I think the work that you guys do, or like the energy you put out into the world, does just that. So that's the essence of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you, man.
Awesome. So basically what I'm going to do is before we get to the work, I always try and start at like the person. I'm going to speak about you, your backstory, get a sense around how you came to be, and then I will then circle back towards the work as the Flying Bantu, the band, and then what you guys are working on now, and then what you're working on in the future. So that's basically it.
Okay, cool, man.
Cool. So I'm gonna kick us off. But cool.
Yeah, perfect.
Cool. Nash, thanks so much for your time, my man. And I was saying to you earlier, it's just like such a pleasure to chat to you, specifically because you are your voice specifically intro every episode. I think I was looking, I was like, what theme song can I use? And I was digging through YouTube. I don't know, somehow your song found me there. I looked at the live performance at Haifa, and the opening words you said like, so everybody knows the sound of the Zimbabwean voice, that's for sure. And it's a beautiful voice, one of unity, togetherness, peace, and love. That's it. Oh, that's the thing I want to use for the intro. So thanks so much for joining me. How are you doing? And what's been happening?
I'm doing really good. Really good. Yeah, place. To be rather expansive, and where there's some kind of bright light in the future that we're all we're traveling towards. So it feels positive, man.
That's good.
Thank you.
The pleasure is mine. The pleasure is truly mine. And where are you? I know you guys are based in Vic Falls. Am I correct that you guys are now? Well, that's where you are now specifically.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in Vic Falls. We're all in Vic Falls. To be more precise, I'm in Chinotimba Township.
Chinotimba Township. Mm-hmm.
neighborhood, just on the outskirts of town. That's where we reside. This is where we are now.
Good. I was actually in Vic Falls when late November, just before I came out here, and it seems like it's changing a lot in terms of, I don't know if that's a bad thing or in my opinion it's a bit of a good thing. I don't know what your thoughts are, but in terms of it has its small, historically it's always had like small hotels here and there, but it seems like a lot of construction happening. Is that a good thing in your opinion, or is that a negative thing?
Oh, you know, we all lived in houses growing up, you know. We find in buildings and streets on the street, quite functional. They've got a purpose. I think as long as it's within, you know, the bounds of maybe conservation, especially because we're in a national park, as long as we respect our parameters and our limits, it's good. So I think most of it is good. I agree with most of it. People need housing. We need infrastructure. We're definitely as a continent or as a country, as a people, having to carve out some kind of future and where we're going to take it in terms of whether we're going to pave the streets or we're going to build huts. I mean, that's something that might have been defined for us already. So yeah, we're going to build some more. There's some sort of like, you know, in the parks and things like that, which I've got questions about, but it's got an opinion.
There's a good point. There's a song you guys wrote called, of course, Sunshine City, and in the song, the lyrics of the song itself, basically, like, for everyone listening, it's a song basically about Harare, Sunshine City, which is what it's called. But in essence, I think it's a song about big cities in general, and sometimes the relationship with the people in cities, and then sometimes you speak about how there's a lot of chasing of wind or chasing vanity in these big cities.
Yeah.
And I think maybe what Vic Falls has right now is, because it's immersed in nature right now, in many ways it's kind of a small town, also like Timber Township, in that there's less of the, what I call like the matrix energy in terms of this chasing of wind that people do in big cities. And as it evolves, it might start to err towards that to some degree, but you know, and then, when I mean err towards that, it's kind of like chasing bigger city energy, and that might attract certain types of people, certain types of mentalities, which might not, you know, that might change the culture of the city. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You're very right. And city, there's an aspect of there's an element of that song that directly sort of leans towards that, which is the big city life and the big city lights and how they daze you. The character who chase money, things like that, takes you in there. Definitely. But the song itself, the actual meaning of the song. Sorry, I've got. Just give me 1 second. I need to.
Cool.
I need to tone down. Yo.
No, yeah, all good. You're talking about the no, it's all good. I can just edit it. So you're talking about the meaning of the song itself.
Yes. So it's actually very personal and based on a true story. It's a missing person basically who got lost. And lost in terms of, I think, themselves, to start with, and in the city that Harare somehow really then allowed or manifested in the person truly disappearing and being lost, like a missing person. So that's what the song is. A very personal track, but it manages to capture, I think, many different sides of that story, and one of them is that big cities do. Vic Falls, I think, it's always had an element of that because it's a place where people meet to come in and make money. The majority of the people who live in Vic Falls are not from here. They were not born here. They were on a mission, and the mission was, was
US dollar. The US dollar.
US, and so lots of people which will be found in a big city.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So just so we don't get ahead of ourselves, of course, people will be like, okay, we know the intro to the song, but who is Tinashe? And just introduce yourself so that we know people. Some people know who you are. Now, of course, you're the lead singer of Flying Bantu, but who is Tinashe from your own perspective?
Yeah, Tinashe is lives in some kind of fantasy where the normal rules sometimes do not hold. I like to think that Tinashe is someone who's trying to define the present, trying to feel or be relevant as those who set the rules of yesterday or today were relevant or are relevant. We fall a lot, like Zimbabwe is rather traditional in many ways.
Yep.
And so we fall back onto the rules of other men, in as much as they are our ancestors or our predecessors. They had a right in their present contribute or say something or do things that were that relevant to the extent where they determine and define who we are. So I think Tinashe is one such person who is not necessarily bound by a past, but more by a future, and tries to manifest things that are beautiful into the world, without being too restricted. Yeah.
It's actually well put, and thank you so much for that. In when I was doing some of my digging and my background research, you talked about how you believe in creativity, and creativity being the purpose of life itself. Or that, and I believe in the same way. Like, we're created, and I think in our essence, one of the things we're actually meant built for is to create. Where did your journey and exposure to that notion or the notion of creativity stem from? Was it from my childhood or from like upbringing, your parents? Where did it come from?
I think it was something that, well, I can't even really recollect when it all began. It has always been there, I think. I've just always gotten lost in my imagination, and I just go. And when I go there, an apple is not necessarily an apple. It can be something else. It doesn't necessarily just represent food, And my father is an artist. He's a sculptor, and he taught art around Zimbabwe. And seeing him, I think him being a role model. He's an amazing. He's an amazing. Emulating, aspiring to have some of his qualities. I think accentuated that emotion in me, or that need to express, and that's where it comes from.
So for me, so it's always been there, and you kind of saw it being represented, in the form of your father as a child. Yeah. And I read that your father, I'm not sure, I know you said it's a sculpture. Did you also play mbira as well? I think I was it your brother? I'm not sure.
That's my old man. Yeah, he plays mbira. He's really, really good. He's really, really good, man.
Yeah.
When I sit next to him, when I go home and I have time and I spend time with him, plays, it really connects with me deeply. That brings back all the emotions or memories, but it just really touches my person, and I've no doubt that also molded my musicality or my proclivity towards it.
I like that, because they say, I read somewhere that they said music is very spiritual, in the sense that, like, the creative process is very spiritual, in the sense that you even wrote about how when you're writing songs, you said, I write, but sometimes the songs come to me. So those songs have to come from somewhere. You know what I mean? They have to come from somewhere. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Sometimes I listen to a song and I can't believe it had anything to do with it.
You're like, wow, who was that?
But even now, I'll go back to that CD album and I'll listen to something, and I just fathom how or where it came from, how it came to be. Like, and sometimes I meet songs for the first time to elaborate on how estranged or how it feels as though it just came through you, but it didn't. Or listen to a song and I meet it for the first time. Like I fall into the meaning of it for the first time. I'm like, oh, yes. For a while, I thought I knew what it was talking about, because for sure I'm uttering the words, But that's maybe as far as my involvement goes in terms of writing them. And I'll come across a line that I wrote, or a sound or something, and it's almost like I'm hearing it for the first time. It could have been anybody else or somebody else.
It's like I hear so many artists talk about the same thing, where, like, I was listening to a John Mayer interview, and you were saying something similar, where it's like there's literally like a veil. Sometimes you go and you're creating and you're writing out loud, and then in certain languages they call it like a genius of some sort, or something is like speaking through you, and you're just a vessel through which you're channeling. Yes. That's which is a weird way of thinking about it, but it's true. But do you think everyone has that capability, or is it just artists?
I don't know. I laugh. You made me think of Azimu in your and how people channel, and maybe how some people are closer or base spiritually that is thinner, and another side can somewhat spill over or communicate, whether it's intention. I don't know what's going on there, but maybe some people are closer to it, and it, I mean, we define things, right, as people. This is what I was trying to touch on in the beginning, how our predecessors have defined things for us, and we live within those bounds a lot of the time, and not a lot of people are willing to push to try and see if they can be expanded or changed or more. I think there are many things that we neglect and ignore and don't realize in our lives, and we live our lives totally blinkered by good things sometimes, just good things. Fair enough. I'm not saying that they're bad things. There could be good things, but somewhat still very limiting because we're not willing to explore. Either we're scared or we feel inadequate or irrelevant. Not worth our now, like right now, like why 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 does music have to sound like that? Why that? Why does it have to move from there into a bridge into a chorus like that? Why not look for something else, or so can anybody do it? Can everybody do it? I think like if you look at we all have our place. We all have our calling in existence and in life. And it's beautiful like that. And there's nothing lesser or more because somebody can do something that another person can't, because that other person who can't do the one thing that you can do something else. And together we fill up the space, it's like petals on a rose, you take one off and same anymore. Petal that's prettier than the other. They all make the one thing. Take one off and you're gonna have to start missioning to make that broad sound, so yeah, some people resonate in a different way that maybe allows that kind of energy to come through, and then others will resonate in another way that allows something else, whether it's technology, the very technology we're using now.
Yep. It's a medium.
It's like everybody's a medium, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You reckon Einstein? You reckon Einstein? Do you reckon that there were moments where he sat and really thought, "Shit, I'm clever." What? Was he also in awe? And it was like, "What the fuck is going on here?"
Like, no, you're fine. Yeah.
From where is this coming from? Come to people in their dreams. You know what I mean? Like how that stuff. Yeah. Maybe I digress. Sorry.
No. You're right. I think you're perfect. I think there's something you said that was very point, which was like you said we define things, and there's this Oscar Wilde quote that says, "To define is to limit." And I've always believed that so accurately. It's like, in fact, I've always hated the word career. I hate that. Like, I have always hated the word career. It's like, I've always hated the expression, "What do you do?" Oh, I hate that so much. Because it's like, it implies I should give one answer. I can do 10 different things in one day, not let alone. And then it made me, and I think for a long time, maybe it made me feel insecure because I've done many different things. When someone says, "What do you do?" It's like, well, right now I feel like storytelling right now, but maybe before I did something else. You know what I mean? But then if you say that out loud, you seem unfocused or wavering. But I think as human beings, we are limited. We're boundless. Do you know what I mean? We're boundless. You can't narrow down my scope of competence into one particular avenue. But when you talk about us defining things, it's like, man, I see it happening all the time where society wants to, for some reason, I don't know where it came from, but there's this thing we want to box people into certain categories, and we do it to ourselves a lot, and think unconsciously. And I've always, or not, I've just become heightenedly, extremely aware of that in the past 5 to 10 years. And then when I started digging into your guys' name, which is like Flying Bantu, and I think this is what you were kind of talking about. I think, well, maybe you can unpack it a little bit when I ask you. But you're talking about how the notion of Flying Bantu, the notion of, if you think of flight, that of traversing without bounds, or transcendence. and then of course Bantu, Abantu, people. So people from different races, nationalities, what have you. But so you put them together, people that traverse without bounds, and yeah, I guess that's it. So am I correct in saying that that's where the name stemmed from?
Yeah, no, spot on. Like you hit it right there, and hence the grin on my face, you know, because well, it turns out somebody's listening, you know, because clearly you're you're listening. So it's actually a little bit emotional for me to listen to you say those words, because yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about, and I think that it translates and crosses over into so many different spheres of existence. A lot of things mirror. It's the concept, I think, is so beautiful that if you allow it to seep in, completely seep in, and being and changed, but you know that we are one. We can overcome. There no. We can break the boundaries. There. If you allow that to take over you, you find that everything changes. You know, your relationship with people changes. You know, when you're walking down the street changes. You know, the market, everything it changes so much around you. Yeah, man, and that's why I even go to like to talk about, you know, the genre, like what type of music do you make? What type of music do I make? I grew up listening to so many different things, so many different, such that I like so many different things, so many different sounds. And for me to pick one and say, okay, I'm just gonna play reggae.
Yeah, it's limiting. It's like, but how about, you know what I mean? Like, I want to do jazz today. Today I might wake up feeling like I want to do jazz. You know.
Yeah, but cool, man. Thank you for knowing your stuff, man. You know, you're asking questions that, to me, definitely, as the person you're having a conversation with, sound very informed, and
thank you.
You took your time to understand what we're trying to do, and it's really beautiful to have this conversation. It's really hitting home with me. It's resonating a lot with me, and you've just made my day, man. I don't know what else will happen today. High is high, man.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I do. The more I did my research or like digging, I was like, okay, it sounds like the band it's like a philosophy, and that just expresses itself through song. But in your sometimes you have some people, there's a band, it's like, well, this is just a philosophy that expresses itself through music, like this thing of togetherness or transcendent people. And I just think it's a very powerful philosophy. And in fact, if I take it deeper, but it's also like, I'm going to say it's rooted in very deep Zimbabwean ideals, but I think not necessarily, they're actually just universal ideals of humanity. So even like when you talk about togetherness, peace, love, even like on Ceasefire, I feel like you look at like the imagery on the artwork, you can see like it's a woman, and then she has like the peace symbol on her ear, and it's like there's the soldier who's pointing a gun at the woman, and the whole notion is like the woman is peace, and then the soldier, you know, it's just about, and peace is bigger than the small soldier on her, you know. So it's just, I can feel the essence of what you guys are putting out into the world, and I think it's wonderful, and it cuts through in the music and the storytelling and the music. But to take it back to how this even formed, because it came from somewhere, right? Where did you guys get the inspiration from? And maybe I've done some of my research, but maybe just from your perspective, where did it start? Where did it all begin as a band for you guys?
Oh, okay. It's a long story. but I the universe conspired, and I got tired of sending reports at the end of the month to my boss.
onto your
I got, I was like, no, this is not working for me. And I dabbled, and I tasted, and I teased myself with the idea of being a full-on artist before. And I really enjoyed it. Those are some of my best years then. So when the time, like, I'm going back into it, and I'd had the privilege before of working with Keller, the guy, our guitarist.
Yeah,
who's a fantastic musician, man. He's, I mean, they talk about people through whom, you know, the universe speaks. All tentacles of the universe, and you know, everything we do is related to the universe. But I mean, he speaks volumes when he plays, and it's amazing. It's just is I'm trying to tap in. I'm trying to tap in constantly. Trying to relieve him of some of this burden that he has got, you know. This talent. I'm like, just give me a little bit, just a little bit talent, man, a little bit more talent, bro. Right. So I wanted to work with him again. So I called him up. I was like, bro, this is the plan. Are you keen? He said, no. Bring some musicians along. Let's jam for a few days. Just some gear at home. Let's play and see if we gel. And you know, with pretty much all the musicians that he brought. Now, a funny story then comes there, because when initially four musicians came, and there was a keyboardist, but what happened was there just wasn't enough scope to have 5 people in the band at that time. So we had to, unfortunately, you see lots of information out there that suggests that, you know, the keyboardist in the band gets laid the least. I think.
Is that not the case with is that not the case with your guys' band?
Of the keyboardist at the very, but and then he came way later and came and joined the band again. So now, you know, 5 people that met on, you know, during that fateful sort of little moment. Yeah, that's how it began, and then we just carried going. You know, carried on going. The other guys, fortunately, weren't employed. Thank you very much. And and then we just stuck it out. We fell in love with the idea. We saw the bigger picture. We looked deep into the future and said, well, that's where we want to be. And for us to be there, we need to be doing this now. So check it out.
What was the bigger picture? Or what is the bigger picture?
The bigger picture,
and you have to say it, because I always say to someone, like, it's a dream, and in a dream everything works perfectly, right? So it's okay to speak about a dream, because people are scared to talk about dreams out loud because it seems too big. But it's a dream. It works perfectly, and you have to have something to aim for that is without bounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you know, speaking your dreams out loud is good. You do it in the right environment, which is difficult to pick, but some environment.
That's true. Not all dreams are safe to put out into the world. That's true. That's true.
So you're gonna be discerning. You're gonna be like, okay, it's almost like it's almost like how a doctor has got to know what to prescribe to the patient, you know, because you just can't. It always can't be, you know, paracetamol for everything. You know, as a person, you've got to know self. You've got to give to a certain situation, and when in that situation to give yourself. I guess. Anyway, I digress. The
I agree,
bigger
though.
picture.
But I agree. Yeah.
I felt myself losing my train of thought there. It's kind of like holding
No,
on to the tail of something. The bigger picture, first and foremost, is a selfish one, because we are all here. We have to live our lives for ourselves. Firstly, it's very important, like, to not lie to each other that nobody's living life for anybody else. How do you do that? There's got to be there's an innate selflessness that exists, where you can do something good for someone, but ultimately you're doing it for yourself, because you feel better.
Make you feel good. 100%. 100%.
So firstly, it was selfish. We want to travel. We want to see the world. Music is our currency. That's what. So you come with your potato, and I give you some spinach. I've got, and hopefully it allows me to see the world and live a fulfilled life, in many ways, materially, spiritually, in all those ways. Firstly, to be in a place 10 years where I'm proud and I'm happy and I'm content, at least music is concerned.
Yeah.
Back to that multifaceted that we were talking about earlier, that you're not one thing, and you can change. But for now, I want there's this cake. I want to eat this cake, and then I'll move on. Secondly, to put something into this space of existence that is worth our time, worth our salt. Like, what can I do in my personal capacity, in our being a band? What can we do to put something here that could maybe nurture something bigger, or be part of something bigger, or just, what can we say as young Zimbabweans, as young Africans, as young human beings? What can we do that touches us, or touches other people, or allows this, it fertilizes this generation and this land, this soil? How can we add to this? To experience? So that's what we really try to do with the music as well, and the band. We hope that we can be in a place where we can help nurture beauty in the world, in our society, in our community, in our families, with our friends. It doesn't have to extend all over the world, but if it's touching you and you're using our song for something, that's it.
It's done. It's done. It's a service purpose. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, that two-part answer to your question.
I like that. I think the first thing is, I think this thing often where it's probably by design that this notion of like innate selfishness, of like, even if it's helping, even if it's at the purest thing of wanting to help somebody, I think it's designed to make you feel good. That's a good design. If helping people makes me feel emotionally and psychologically and spiritually well, that is phenomenal design. It means we've been designed. That's phenomenal. Of course, it's selfish, and that's as it should be. And then also you talked about. Also, I think the first part is like, you want to give from overflow, and that you can't give. Well, it's hard to give and pour from an empty cup. So if you're full, you then pour from that overflow. So completely agree. So for you guys, that's of course traveling, experiencing the world. You know what I mean? Like expressing yourselves as in a way that you feel is correct. And then on the second part is yeah, I agree with this notion of like, what do I want to say for my generation, at least? What do I want to put out into the world that
Yeah,
can fertilize, whether it's the spirit or the mind in a way that is meaningful. And I think on maybe on a subconscious level, we all want, those are things that are universal, not just
yeah,
artists. I think artists are the ones that are kind of, and not to box you in, by the way, as I say, but I think artists are the ones that, I don't know, I don't know if it's courage or confident enough. I think the world is very tough on artists. You guys mentioned that you're all, people guys are all unemployed, but thankfully we had the courage to go after what we wanted now for the future. But the question I have was like, in that pursuit, did you feel pressure from the outside world to, how can I say, to do something conventional? You know what I mean?
yeah. There's pressure constantly. There's pressure constantly because
Even now,
people
even
tend,
now.
oh yeah, oh, massive pressure, man, massive pressure. People tend to gravitate towards the things that they know, which is something we established in the beginning, and how we don't break beyond because we're comfortable where we are and it's working. It's working. Is it hip hop? Yeah, I like hip hop. I'll listen to hip hop. Is it R&B? Yeah, cool. I'll listen to R&B.
Mm,
Right,
mm,
tend to gravitate towards that. And when you give them something that is not fitting perfectly into that, they 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 approach it cautiously. Sometimes they avoid it completely. No, and there are very few people who just fall into it. Like, yeah, cool. I'll try that. What did you say it is? No, what's that? But I'll eat it. Not many people who are like that. A lot of people are like, okay, a little bit first. So pressure in a world that also defines success. Like, what is success? Is it a certain amount of views on your videos? Is it a certain number of gigs that you do? Is it a certain amount of listeners on Spotify? That becomes, is it how much money are you making, or all those things? And that societal definition or expectation of success from from your ability to satisfy what is conventional and what isn't. So there's a strong relationship there. And if you're not doing something that is so accepted, guaranteed it's to translate as easily into success. So there's that level of pressure where you're put in the same pot as a musician, as every other musician. And the other musicians who are doing things to satisfy the conventional more than you are. So then they will, whether, I'm not saying that they're not talented, they're probably talented way more, but the pressure comes where people begin to compare you and they don't take you for who you are, just as who you are. It's like, okay, no, this is who they are. This is what they do. Compare you to let's say Ed Sheeran.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. Yo, it's tough. Yo, but you aren't. You're your own person. You're your own person.
Yeah. And then there's just for something palatable. You're a chef and you like to play with different ingredients, but can we actually eat this stuff? I understand you're exotic and everything. That looks it looks interesting, man. But can I eat?
But can I eat this food that you?
So we're trying to, then there's that pressure to say, is this next album we're working on going to at least have some kind of traction? It needs some kind of traction, man. Because in Debele they say umuntu ngabantu, we're to put it as bluntly as I can, and in my own mind, you can only be a person amongst people. If there are no people around you, what would you be? What would you what would you call yourself? Action. So there's always the pressure of trying to be yourself while remaining somewhat, while still remaining human. I don't know how else to put it. How do you? Yeah. I mean, I can't just walk outside totally like stark naked right now. I can't.
Right. Even though intrinsically you might feel like, no, this is what I feel like doing today. Quite frankly, I want to. My spirit feels like, but yes, that's fine and all. Do me. However, they also, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's like battling the tension between expression and convention. Like battling conventions.
You put it better. You put it better than me, bro. That's it. Between expression, that's it.
That's the artist. That's the not even just it's a human dilemma that is that is always going to be there. In terms of your guys' journey, of course you guys made the decision to kind of take that leap. I like to always talk about like high points and low points. What was the highest point where you feel like, man, this is why we do this. This is it. Like when you have that moment. What was the high point, and then what was the low point where you thought maybe, and it could be whatever it is for you. You know what I mean? But as a band, what was the high and the low?
The high point, it was the first 3 years. So we've been going for, this will be the 6th year. And is this is pre-COVID vibes.
Right.
We that era, that one.
before the world, jeez, yeah.
So we were feeling good. We started, obviously, still very rough and up to now, still figuring ourselves out. It's only been 2 of which were COVID. I don't know how relevant they have been. We were not really present during COVID. Somehow, I think we went somewhere else. We can touch on that. So the first 3 years there was just like an upward curve. It was just, that's where it was going. And right before COVID, it felt it was just about to explode. We were just about to take over.
Yeah.
Phase. So the tempo was solid and was firm, was good, and the mood was beautiful. We felt it was coming, and then COVID came, and COVID basically felt like it erased a lot of those successes, or a lot of that success, sorry, and a lot of those little triumphs, and it almost
just erased. So instance, kind of felt like going back to continue.
But an album that we were riding on, and when COVID came, after 2 years, the album is gone. Is dead, man. Like we've got to bring people now, the audience, but mainly for ourselves. It's like we need to put something right that we're believing right now. When song, it's not the same as singing an old song. There's something else about your and your delivery when you're body of now, and we need a new one. It feels like you're starting to get back to the same place where you were. So before COVID, that was like a high point. During COVID was a very low point because I was up, and you think maybe I should have gone to grow some tomatoes. Maybe that's what I should have done. Is this the universe teaching me that I'm on
because this music thing, man, it's not really like right.
Yeah. But now we're feeling good. so good now. You know, just hopefully on the upward swing again in terms of, you know, all these lockdowns are hopefully a thing of the past, because music became a very illegal thing. Um, but we are agents of gatherings. You know, that's what we do. We want people to gather. So we were not allowed. Hopefully, with that in the past, you know, the environment is right again. It's conducive again for our craft, and we're working on a new album which we're almost done with. So, and we're optimistic and very
And
happy.
what? That's good. What do you guys? Oh, I don't know if you can divulge it, but what do you want to say on this one?
Well, it started off during COVID. It was going to be just an EP, and we were. It was going to center a lot around the void that was created, or that we all experienced during COVID, of things that used to be that weren't anymore, or potential that we thought we were going to realize that all of a sudden was just swept away, you know. So there was that missing, there was that thing and for us, we missed playing music or meeting up every day to practice for a couple of hours, or where we can let go and we can see people, you know, us falling towards them and that interaction. And some of the songs were gonna come across as love songs, but they were not about people. They were more about. So it was, and love was just like, or relationship. The relationship becomes sort of like the analogy of
the surface level, right.
So there's that stuff. That's going to be in the new album. And then we realized that we wanted to make an album. In this EP. Then we're like, okay, why make two bodies? No, let's just make a bigger record. So that's what we ended up deciding on. So it the music will speak a lot of, you know, very simple human emotions, which were brought to the surface by what happened in the last couple of years. And I know everybody's tired of talking about COVID. We're not going to attack it directly. There's not going to be a lot of this COVID in there. We're going to try and deal with the emotion. And as you know, I mean, songs can apply to many different things. You can hear many different things, but those are things that we need to get off our Bantu chest and express. Yeah.
No, I think it's important. I think that you always say, they say art. I don't know. Yeah, they said art imitates life or mimics life. I think, and we would be lying to ourselves if there were to be no albums that reflect on what we just went through as like as a people, and you know, that's across the world. So I'm all for it. In terms of, I'm now going to bring us full circle. So all the best of the new album and all that's coming up. I'm going to start bringing us to full circle, but there are 2 points I want to touch on. My mother-in-law, she's from Costa Rica, and she was like, man, I want to unpack the lyrics to Oga Oga, of course, because that's like the theme song to this show and everything that you're saying there. So when I was listening to it, of course, it seems like it's a story of lost love. But is there an analogy or a deeper meaning to it that I'm maybe missing? I'm trying to think of what is this like, or is it not that serious?
It's oh man, why are you gonna expose me like this, man? Why?
I was like, who broke your heart? I said, ooh, every who broke your heart?
Yeah, but it's just, I was going through something when those
Right.
words came about.
Mm.
And it wasn't with a specific person. It
Mm.
was more with, it was to do with people and relationships. And
Mm.
most of the time, when relationships do come to an end,
Mm.
it's not a thing. It's not like two people have decided that there's usually one person who is left in there just hurting more than the other, one person who feels hard done by it all,
Yep.
um,
Yep.
and the song kind of walks from a place of innocence where I've never met anybody like you. I've never
Mm.
to to that chorus where clearly it's over. It's like,
Mm.
where did you go?
Mm.
Happened.
Mm.
I was feeling a bit discombobulated by by love. By love. I felt a bit cheated, a bit like today you're mine and tomorrow you're not, like
Mm.
we were so romantic just now. We were all over each other. We loved
It's hard. It's heartbreaking, and you start to think, crack your head, like, but what did I just imagine this past few, like, was this a dream? Like, how could you go from that to
yeah. Like, am I
yeah,
that emotionally retarded?
right,
Like, wasn't
right?
that something just
Was that something like now no, yeah, we've all been through unrequited love
yeah,
is it's a real thing. Now I got you.
yeah. But then you like you said, you grow as a human being from all those things, all those are lessons.
Mm.
You've got to take that. This is an experiential sort of plane we're on,
Mm.
and got to appreciate the hurts, and the laughter. You've
Mm.
got to appreciate sadness, the elation.
Mm.
You've got to take and create a rounded a, ri- a rounded experience, so that you 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 you've got to allow yourself to exist in many different places and not just be stuck in one, even emotionally. So
Mm.
if you're hurt, going through something difficult, remember that this thing passes, and then you can
Mm.
go through.
Mm.
So yeah, we change, and we need to take all of our emotions with us
Mm.
as we go. That's what we do. So that song, I was going through something where
Mhm.
I was thinking about what's going on with this love thing,
Mm.
Because I seem to forever be working on my charm, man. It's like
Nah, it's
yeah,
honest. It's an honest song, I think. And then the biggest thing, just to end off there, is like, and then when you look at it from a distance, really, I look at the guy in the song. He's like, "What happened? I was, completely enamored, and then things didn't work out." And then after a while, and maybe there might be hurt and anger, but then eventually, time is a hell of a thing. Then you say like, "Oh, well, maybe what role did I play in this? What role did
yeah,
I play in this working out?" And then that's where the ouch comes in, like,
mm,
"Oh, okay, hang on. Oh, I'm like that," because it's not just one way. Sometimes like the person could have gone and yes, you are hard done by. But then you're like,
yeah,
oh, baby, there's that thing that I do that could have maybe helped that situation and I didn't, you know what I mean? But you won't know until you have gone through all of these emotions that you talk about. You have to go through all of the emotions, good and bad.
yeah,
As hard as they may be, there are lessons in them, and to bring us full circle, firstly, thank you for this conversation. I think it's been great. I'm such a fan, and I'm looking forward to the next album. And to bring us full circle, as I said to you in the beginning, I look at Zimbabwe as like a story, and a story has many chapters, and that are ongoing. And if you look at our story in this era that we exist in, it hasn't always been painted in the most favorable light. So my question for you is, what does shifting the narrative of this story look like for you?
It's very important, I think, to exhibit, embrace, exude some kind of relatability. We have to be relatable, because when it comes to opinion, we're talking about the world, the everybody everywhere, who looks at Zimbabwe and thinks, oh, okay, this is the story, this is the rhetoric, or this, and then they come from there, then they go into Rhodesia, then they come into Zimbabwean politics and voodoo economics and all that sort of stuff, you know. It's an opinion that is being created by the world. So how do we allow those people to relate to us? How do we take those people in and put them in our shoes so that they can begin to understand our sensibility, or how we are the same with them? At least how are we not any different? How possible is it for them for them tomorrow to end up in a situation like us? Happiness tomorrow, like it changes, eh? You try to help him out, because tomorrow you might be the one who's like, that's just how it goes. And everything. So they say that there used to be water on Mars. You know what I mean? Then what happens? So we try to, myself, through the music, I try to communicate from a place that I think everybody can relate to somehow. Whether it's because most of the lyrics are in English and people can hear them. Not that I don't like to sing. I think I actually sing in Shona better, and you're gonna maybe hear some more of that on the next album, where I'm gonna try and express it in another tongue. But if we could allow people to get onto a bus with us and take a journey with us as Zimbabweans, out the window, the same window that we're looking out through, allow them that we are looking at, that we are seeing, and maybe they can come closer. They can come closer to who we are and understand that everything that's going on around us is not because of us. It shouldn't paint a picture on who we are, because who we are is somewhere else. What you're seeing is just the projection of this world projects things, and we do not, a lot of the times, have much of a say in what's being projected. You know, these things are happening. Time. We're trying to cope with it. We're trying to cope with it. Don't beat us down. Don't burn us, South Africa. Come on, guys. You know what I mean? Like, what's you know? Do you know that the river Zambezi separates Zimbabwe and Zambia? Okay, those geopolitical definitions of what those places are related. There are people who that geopolitical statement caught out, and then all of a sudden they're that side. They are full-on Ndebele people who live in Zimbabwe, and they're full-on Ndebele Africa. They're full-on Tswana people in Africa, and Tswana people who live in Botswana. They're full-on. I mean, what's up? How? Let's not allow these projections to define us so strongly. Let's connect on a human.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to try and do. We need to, or Zimbabweans, the people, ignore the definition, but ask the people. My neighbor, you, my neighbor, and you and I. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's relate to each other. I put myself in your shoes. Let's find ways. Let's find a vehicle somehow that allows us to have that marriage, that intermarriage, that link, that hug, that embrace, that conversation. It's wishy-washy, man. It's wishy-washy. I mean, I wish I could send you a document with, in point form, telling you exactly how I believe Zimbabwe can. But it's I think it starts on an individual level. Let you and I connect, and let's have a conversation. That's where it begins.
I love that. So it's a good noise where I'm from. But no, you hit the nail on the head. I think I had a conversation with Kalai, who's the filmmaker, with the one who shot your guys' video, Sunshine City, from Obscura Film, and she was saying the same thing. It's like we start to move forward when we recognize our shared humanity. And that's what she talked about. Like, well, our shared humanity is where we start to move forward. And we start to actually see ourselves in each other. That's where we start to move forward. And then also, like, I was also very, sorry, is my wife there? I was talking about this notion of, how can I describe it? Yeah, I think it's just our shared humanity, but it's also this notion of just hitting a blank. Zimbabwean, being Zimbabwean. I don't want to, even the definition is a creation of someone, right? So we also have to be wary about that. It's a geopolitical creation of sorts. I think I only named that as a means of defining community, which is also a bit dangerous. But as you're very right, we start to move forward when we get to a point where we realize we're more alike than we are not alike, and see ourselves as such and move forward as such. And I think that's the way we move forward. And I think you guys have said that in your music, in your words, in your energy, and I think the word is beautiful.
1 second, Jimmy. Yes, Boma. Come in. My brother just arrived.
All good. But I was just saying, we see ourselves that, you guys say the same things in your music and in your work, and the world is better for it. So thanks for taking the time to chat to me, and I appreciate it.
Oh man, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm so glad the power came back. I woke up at about 7:30, and somehow my internal clock was saying that I'd overslept because it was
right.
And so my first emotion was that of disappointment and horror. I was like, oh, what did I oversleep? Then I looked at the time, and I realized I was way early.
I'm good.
Just to excitement that I've been feeling about chatting to you, and I must that the excitement was. I should have been more excited because I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you for the conversation and music. We'll try to give you something that you can relate to, something maybe that reminds you of home, or something that make you feel more at home where you are. Something that centers you or helps you center yourself as a human being. And that's what we really strive to do. And I hope that we can give it to you. Thank you for the confidence that you're showing in us. That really, really means a lot.
Nah, absolutely. Anyway, Nash, I'm gonna let you go, but all the best with everything, and we'll stay tuned.
Nice one, brother. Nice one, Jimmy. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks a lot.